And so that's the first thing, is being free of caring what anybody thinks. Because when you're free of caring what people think, you'll be yourself. You'll authentically express yourself. You won't be afraid to make sales calls. You won't be afraid to reach out and get speaking gigs. You won't care what they think. You're just going to do what you want to do. And that's a really important thing. And there's sometimes a lot of stories that we have to let go of, where what we've grown up with and things that have happened in our life that have all shaped this mindset and belief system that we have. And so
well, hey everyone, I am here today with Nafissa Shireen. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I am so honored to be here, Francesca.
Oh my goodness, I know I met you a couple of years ago, and I had the honor to be a guest in your show, and it was one of those summits, I think.
It was a top summit,
and anyway, I wanted to have you because I do have questions for you, and I know that you have a lot of information that can help our audience and our guests. So before we go on, because our audience may or may not know you, for those who don't know about you, you are a business coach?
Well, I would refer to myself more just as a coach, because I feel that when it comes to business, you coach the person and you consult on the business. Businesses aren't very coachable.
Okay.
So I work with entrepreneurs on both halves. I would say the practical and the purposeful, so the heart and soul and the business.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how did you get into this? Because
I
I know you were in the corporate world,
yes.
right?
I fell into it.
You fell into it?
I fell into it, yeah. Well, when I was in the corporate world, I mean, I'm a big believer in coaching, because that's where I first got my first coach. I hired an executive coach when I was just stuck in this middle management role, and I couldn't break out of it. And I hired an executive coach that I had a lot of respect for. She had at one point been a recruiter, and then she went into executive coaching. And so what I experienced with her was I literally 10 times my income. I went to an executive level. I broke through a whole lot of things. And so when it was time for me to leave corporate, that was a natural thing to do. Now, I never thought I was going to leave corporate. However, I just got to the point where I was just fed up. I was traveling. I was living more days on a plane than at home. And then we had a big shakeup I loved my job. Then we had a big shakeup in management. We had my immediate supervisor left, the CEO was replaced. We had changes on our board of directors from 2 different companies. Then we had another change at the parent companies. And so I didn't have the same job. I had the same employment. And I'll never forget the day my career ended over a donaire. I was sitting at my kitchen table. I got an email that put me over the edge. I threw the donaire across the living room. And my husband's like, I think you're done. And I said, yeah, I am too. And that was it. I resigned by email on my BlackBerry, standing in an exploded donaire, 22-year career, just like that.
Wow.
And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. And so at the time, I did my notice and all that. And I was a lot politer in the email when I resigned. It was quick. So when I left, my coach at the time had kind of suggested, and as a coach, she was kind of stepping out of her role to suggest. However, we had a good relationship. She said, be original. And at the time, I'd lost a lot of weight, so I went down the path of being a weight loss coach. And that just wasn't for me. I hated it. I couldn't do it. I liked health and fitness for me. I wasn't patient enough for my clients. And
must do it.
I got to the point where I'm like, if one more person says they can't follow their diet, I'm sending them a box of Krispy Kremes and telling them to get on their way. So I realized that, my gifts are business. I had to kind of heal what I had gone through, and just the leaving a corporate career like that. And then I just kind of flowed into it. And I had some challenges when I started, because I was a CGA, and there's an American audience, that's a Canadian version of a CPA, and they're now called CPAs as well. And
Which stands for
Certified Public Accountant.
Okay.
And so I had a lot of restraints on me because I was a member of their professional organization. So when I got into the business side of things, because I was a member of this organization, they basically told me I couldn't have a company that provided coaching and business services. They had to be 2 separate ones, and and if I worked in coaching, I couldn't work on people's business, and if I worked in their business, I couldn't coach them.
Wow.
And And I had to actually open that firm as an accounting firm. I'm like, well, who's going to want that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hire a coach that's an accountant. No offense to any accountants out there. I have nothing good things to say about you guys. It just wasn't working for what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it didn't seem to fit.
And so this was like 20 years of my life, Francesca. 10 years of school, 10 years of career, and I had a choice to make. I had to decide whether I was going to do what they told me to do,
Mm-hmm.
and restrict my income, restrict what I could do, follow their rules, or realize they own those 3 letters. I own my experience. I own my contacts. I own my professional knowledge. I own my coaching certifications.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it all back to them. And so I did. And
No limits.
No limits. I had to return my diplomas.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted them back. I had to
Wow.
resign. I'm not allowed to use the letters anymore. I can't even say I was a former, which I just did, but whatever.
That was a past life.
It's a past life. So a lot took me to that point. And when I did that, I was finally free to actually step into the business I wanted.
Mm.
So it took about 2 years from the time I left my job to make that decision. And I think it was 2014 that I let go of my professional accounting designation.
And you took the leap.
I took the leap.
So when you did take the leap, were you scared, or did you know this was it? Like, how did it feel? Was it, I'm going to try it and see how it goes? Or there was
no going back, right? I mean, when I quit my job, there was always, okay, I'm a professional accountant.
But now you're going into self-employment. You're not going to find another job.
Yeah,
so how did that feel?
And so there was no plan B. Like, my plan B went out the window for ever going back to getting a job.
Mm.
The thing is, though, is I realized I had never actually worked in accounting anyway in my corporate career. I worked in management and business development. So if I was ever going to go back to that world, I would need an MBA anyway, and I wasn't. So there was, it was, logically speaking, it didn't make a difference. Emotionally, it was really, really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I churned for about 6 or 7 weeks on what am I going to do, what am I going to do. And then I went to an event, and I mean, I'm a big believer in getting out of your comfort zone and going to places. And we went through an exercise. It was very profound and I wouldn't say traumatic, but it was pretty traumatic. It just really shook things up in me and made me realize I was going to hold on to my dreams because of something somebody else was saying that had no impact on my life. So I did it, and I remember when I took the diplomas off the wall, it was literal blood, sweat, and tears. I was dry heaving, I was crying, I was sweating, and I'm pulling all the framing and matting off, and I was cutting myself on the staples. It was traumatic. And
so was it traumatic because you felt like you had worked so hard to get to that, and now you were giving it up?
It was just an identity for 20 years of being an accountant.
Yeah.
And so I put him in the envelope. I took him to the post office. I sent it by registered mail. She stamped it and said, "Have a nice day." I'm like, you have no idea what you've got in that envelope. And then it was done. And I've never regretted it.
Did it feel good?
Yes.
After it was mailed?
Yeah, there's nothing more stressful than an unmade decision.
Mm-hmm.
So once it was done, it was done, it was a huge relief. And so now that's how I got to where I am.
Wow. So now tell me about because I know about a little bit, but, the name of your business.
The name of my business, Living Forward.
Yes. Just share with us, how did that come about? Why Living Forward? Where did you get the inspiration for that name in particular? Yeah.
So I would say the climax of it, which however, I think it's come to me my whole life, because one of the things I've always done is I've always just moved forward no matter what happened. If you told me no, I was like, okay, that means maybe, or it means not yet. And that's always been my thing. And I always had this philosophy that if I just keep moving, I will achieve. And I was at a pivotal point. I had let go of this accounting designation. It was about a year later. And I was going through some other things and sometimes you have to let go of friendships and relationships in order to take your next level. And I was thinking about some friends that I really loved dearly. And it was New Year's Eve. Not New Year's Eve, a couple of days before New Year's Eve. I was at the liquor store buying champagne.
Champagne.
It was a champagne day. And so I was churning this, and I remember thinking to myself, and I had my haul for my New Year's Eve party, and I'm walking out with my champagne, and I might have even been speaking out loud to myself, and I just said, no, this is hard. Yet I need to be around people who aren't living in the past. I need to be around people who are living forward. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't drop all the bags. I'm like, oh, yes.
So that's where you had that epiphany. That's what it's going to be called.
That's going to be the name of my company. And and that's also been a journey, because, you know, I put it out there. I applied for the company. I applied for the trademarks. And then a year later, I won't say who, but there was a very big name that came out with a book with that name. And
oh boy.
So my attorney had let my application expire, and so there was a lot of expenses to just keep that going. And we did it. We got all our trademarks, and it's so personal because now it's mine forever, and I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
well,
cool.
congratulations
Thank you.
on that, because I know it can be a little to think that you could possibly lose the name after you came up with the perfect name.
I know, and it wasn't an easy trademark to get. I've had quite a few that I've applied for, and this one took a couple of years to go through to get it in every category that we wanted.
Right.
The thing is, though, like when you know something's right for you, and I would say this to the viewers, like when you know something's right for you, just keep going.
Just keep going. Don't give up.
No,
don't give up at the first challenge.
The right thing will happen.
Yeah.
And it could have been easy to say, I can't compete with that.
Yeah. I'm just so glad you brought up the fact that, and I didn't even ask you, but you brought out that like sometimes you have to let go of some people. And can you just share without sharing specific people, but can you just share more about that? Because I'm a strong believer of that, the personal experience, right?
And when I think about letting go, I'm thinking more of, I mean, you're not letting go of your affection for them. You're not letting go for all the good that they brought you in your life. It's about putting space and giving yourself a bubble. Like, it's really important to give yourself that bubble, because that's your world and your space. And if people come into that and they take your energy away, if you're not bringing them up and they want to hold you down, you have a choice to make. Do you want to be held there, or do you want to grow? And it's not to say that some people who aren't necessarily where you're at or haven't done the work yet would be people you'd release. It's more the people that don't want to see you grow, and that don't want to help themselves. For me, anyway, if they were constantly living in a space of life is hard, it'll never work for us. I can't do this. It's easy for you, and it's hard to see that because that person is coming from really a place of not being able to see their greatness. And at the same time, if they're not willing to go there, it's just going to bring you down. And so, yeah, we have had to let some relationships go. And sure, if they're stranded in the middle of the highway with a broken down car, you'd go get them. But I'm not going to spend Saturday night hanging out. That kind of stuff. Yeah,
I found the same thing where there are some people that are dear to me, but they're just energy and time suckers, and in a negative way. Not just wanting to spend time, but just in a very negative way. And it's like you said, you can still love them, and when you can't totally cut them off because of whatever reason, you can still limit the amount of time you spend with them. And it's so important to surround yourself with the ones that are positive. So it's not just about eliminating, but also making sure that you do fill that space with.
Give you like an example. Like I invested a huge amount of time and money to go to a very deep personal development workshop for myself with my mentor out of the country, and it was amazing. And I came back, and a couple of weeks later, I took a training course, and I'm so glad I took the training course. It was really, really good, and the people in the course were really kind-hearted, wholehearted people on a totally different wavelength. And I didn't realize how much it had brought me down, just in terms of what I thought was possible or whatever. And I had a call with my mentor during that training course, and he's like, "What happened to you?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, You've gone backwards. And then I realized it was just, and it was subtle, and I wasn't hanging out with them, I wasn't doing the dinners or whatever. It was just in an environment of people who weren't quite ready to take that next leap in their life. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about them, and they weren't even negative energy time sucks. It was a lot more subtle than that. And so I think for me, when I think about letting relationships go, it's about even being aware of the subtle ones.
So was it like mindset? Was it their mindset?
I would say it's mindset. Like
Yeah.
for instance, there was a huge aversion to anything to do with sales with them. Like sales is wrong. Like, well, none of us could be in this course if somebody didn't sell us a program, right? And that's totally against my philosophy.
Well, you can't, like, if you have a business, you have to sell, whether you like it or not, or you can't have a business.
And
you can call it whatever you want.
Totally. And sales is something you do for people.
People
right?
buy, people go shopping,
buy, right?
Sales is part of life.
And so just even something like that, I found my confidence in sales calls diminished a bit, and I didn't even realize it until my mentor like pointed it out because of the questions I was asking. So I think it's just, when you're thinking about protecting that bubble, it's not just the time sucks, it's just the ones that don't add to you either.
So this is so interesting because it's like, I'm just realizing this as I've talked about influence before, but this is like very subtle influence where you're being influenced unknowingly. So sometimes like it's obvious to see the time sucks or people that are just, but sometimes like you said, very subtle.
Yes.
So very important to really surround ourselves with
people that hold us
up, or that we can bring up, like you said.
Exactly.
So if we can get, so it's not like we're going to eliminate everybody around you, but people are at least willing to grow, right, and be positive. Move forward, live forward.
Exactly.
So perfectly. So Nafissa, how do you work with your clients? Do you work with them like one-on-one? Do you do groups? Do you do online courses? Or like, what do you do?
A little bit of all of it.
Okay.
Primarily, I really love the one-on-one work, and we do one-on-one coaching, and I have a group element to that to create the community. And we're going to be offering a lot more masterminds in the next year in 2018 to bring more women together and keep them more intimate. I like the one-on-one because that's where the transformation happens. And then there's things that are just, I think, there's things that just are step by step. They don't necessarily need a coach for that. They just need a guide for that. So for those, I have online programs. And that's what I was saying, it's like you coach the person, you consult the business. So it's a little bit of all of it.
So are these, like your online programs, are they like already packaged in a way that they can just sign up at any time, or is it something that you have certain dates for people
some
to
of them,
sign up?
Some of them they can get any time. They're on my website, and other ones we do a couple of times a year.
Is there anyone you would like to talk about that you could share with our audience?
Sure. I'd love to share my favorite one is my package on how to get speaking gigs.
Cool.
Because I think speaking is definitely a great way to build your business. And it's funny, I was just in my Facebook group before I came up here to let them know I was doing this and reminding them to go get their gigs because this is speaking too. It really transformed my business. And the thing is, when I was going out and trying to get the speaking gigs at the time, there was all these courses on how to write your talk, but there was nothing about how to get speaking gigs. It took me like over a year of, I did some really stupid things, embarrassing things.
Isn't that how we learn?
Yes, exactly. And so I realized, you know what? This is something people need, because it's one thing just to put your feelers out there or to say at a networking event, I'm looking for speaking gigs. It's a whole other art and science to completely fill up your calendar online and offline. And so that's what that's about.
Okay, so are you willing to share a link with me that I will put below in the comments so people can check the program out?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So there you go, speaking gigs. That's how you get more work and how you get more clients. And you're always booked. You're always speaking. Like I know you travel all the time.
Yeah, I do. And it's nice now that I can actually sometimes take a break and go, okay, not this month or whatever. So I still think it's one of the best ways. Because it's so easy to get so caught up in online strategies and funnels and tripwires and segmenting your list and putting all these things between yourself and your customer and not making a lot of money. And a lot of women do that, and I've seen that. And whereas you can go out, you can speak, and you can have a couple of $5,000 clients in a couple of weeks. So I just think getting out and meeting people is when you're starting out, is the fastest, most effective way to build your business. And then you'll have the money to fund the online stuff because it's not cheap.
Yeah, everything takes investment, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So you help entrepreneurs get all the way to 7 figures. Am I correct? That is what you help
from zero to wherever they want to go.
Okay, so you work primarily with, it doesn't matter if it's a startup or if it's someone who's already been.
Exactly. What we work on is different. the main thing we do work on is the internal stuff. Because, I talk a lot about personal freedom, and you cannot create freedom in your life if you don't have freedom inside your heart and soul and mind. And so that's what we work on. And it just depends on where they're at with the strategies.
How do you create freedom from the inside?
It's a lot of work. You have to, one of the first things is really getting clear on who you are. And so many of us have been conditioned to hide our true self. It's never been, we're told as kids to pipe down or to fit or to conform. And so that's the first thing, is being free of caring what anybody thinks. Because when you're free of caring what people think, you'll be yourself. You'll authentically express yourself. You won't be afraid to make sales calls. You won't be afraid to reach out and get speaking gigs. You won't care what they think. You're just going to do what you want to do. And that's a really important thing. And there's sometimes a lot of stories that we have to let go of, where what we've grown up with and things that have happened in our life that have all shaped this mindset and belief system that we have. And so I work with people on that on an emotional level and also on a subconscious level with some NLP as well. So it's the two that we work through together. Because I will find if we don't do that, and I work with people that just want to get to the how-tos, they don't do the how-tos. So the how-tos come later when they're ready.
Because it's not the openness to, and the freedom to just, like you said, the freedom, right?
To do that.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one is not caring what people think.
I think you hit the nail right on the head, because even speaking, they say, I don't know if it really is is it really scientifically proven? I don't know, but that's what they say, that that's the biggest fear, is public speaking. But that's where you can get a lot of your clients. That's where you can really increase your.
And again, it's a mindset shift. I love getting on stage. Give me a microphone.
So do I.
I know. So it's just about switching that belief that it's.
I think it is. I think it is not really the fear of public speaking per se, but like you said, it's the fear of what people think. So it's of being judged, of saying the wrong thing, being misinterpreted, and being shamed, or what are they going to say? What are they going to think about me? Well, and the reality is, people are not going to think about you. They're thinking about themselves most of the time.
And the only thing you have to worry about people thinking is that you're on time. You're the event host. That's it.
Yeah, and if they think something negative, then they're not your client.
Exactly.
They're not your cup of tea, right? You can't please everybody, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
What did I want to be when I grew up? I'm trying to remember. My dad always had businesses, and I just thought I was going to be like a boss.
Well, you are a boss.
I was going to be the boss. I never thought, so I was going to be, and I would stamp things and whatever. I was going to be the boss. That's all I remember.
You're just going to be a boss.
I was going to be the boss.
So you were a bossy child.
Yes, I was. And I was actually going to have a horse too.
And which you do.
Which I do. And I never realized, of course, it was going to be like this great, beautiful, award-winning horse.
With the big mane,
the big mane. It was going to have some exotic name, but I've got my gimpy little guy.
He's awesome. I see your photos on Facebook. It's so cute.
So that was the other thing I wanted.
He has a personality.
That he does.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So do you have a quote or a mantra or a belief that you always refer to that kind of keeps you anchored? Like, what keeps you anchored? Because I'm sure you have your days that,
It's just, I can make this happen. I will figure this out. Everything can be figured out. There's nothing, my core belief is that we actually, as long as it's within the laws of nature, we can do anything. So, and we can learn anything. We might choose not to. Like, I have no interest in learning how to build a rocket ship. Doesn't mean I can't do it.
Right.
So my mantra is I can. That's just, I can, and I will.
You can.
And, I have to go through that in my head at the gym too when I'm ready to just leave.
Do you know what I say to myself when I work out and it gets really hard? Labor is harder than this. I got this.
I wouldn't know.
That's what, I had one child. I'm like, this is nothing. If you had a child, this is nothing.
I wouldn't know. But that's just my thing. I can and I will.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Do you have anyone who is your inspiration?
My inspiration. I think I look up to a lot of people. I look at people within my industry. There's some people that are really taking a leadership role. I look at people like Catherine Graham. I think she's just, I look at her as such an amazing inspiration because here she was. She took over this company when her husband died and didn't know what to do, and she just had to figure it out, and she learned what she knew, and she knew what she didn't know, and she built up this huge publishing
Who's
company.
Catherine Graham? Those who don't know.
So she took over. This is gonna be bad because I don't know the name of the company she took over, but her husband was a major publisher, and so when he passed away, she'd been a housewife her whole life, and then she took it over. It was willed to her, and so she had to take over this multi-billion-dollar company. And this is really bad that I can't remember the name of it. I know
That's
her
okay.
story. And so she's, you know, her quote is like, to do what you love and know that it matters. What could be greater than that?
Mm-hmm.
And she took it into a very successful company, and she'd never done anything like that in her life.
I love that. Do what you love.
To do what you love and know that it matters.
Know that it matters. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty profound.
Yeah.
That pretty much sums it all up.
Yes.
If we do what we love, and we can only do what we love if we don't worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's almost like we're prisoners of these invisible chains that other people, we think other people are putting on us. Because I don't even think people do that. I think it's just in our own heads.
And I think the one thing I think when that comes up too is, and sometimes, when we make decisions, other people will sometimes have a reaction to it. Mm-hmm. And I've had to do a lot of work on this, and I'm not perfect by any means because it depends who it is, right? If it's a close family member or something. And I try to get back to this line of thinking where I think that, well, first of all, I'm not going to let anybody who doesn't get to live out the results of what they think make the decision for me. Mm-hmm. And secondly, everyone's entitled to their own experience. Who am I to take however they want to respond away from them? Mm-hmm. I'm, however, going to do what's right for me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's a challenge. Yeah. But if I can stick to that, then it's keeps me moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, yeah.
Moving forward, you have the perfect name. So, what would you say to? I'm going to take, since you work with both people who are just starting out or already, in their business and taking it, wanting to take it to the next level. What would be one main thing if you could give one tip to somebody who's saying, I want to start a business, but I really don't know where to start? What would be the most important thing based on your experience with your clients? The one thing that you would say, this is the most important thing for you to do first. And same question for someone who's already been in business and now has hit a plateau and can't figure out how to get to that next level.
Okay, so if somebody is still in their corporate job and they're looking to go forward, this is where I get very practical. I would tell them, well, the very first thing you need to do is go get yourself a low interest line of credit when you don't need it. Mm-hmm. And do not touch it unless you absolutely need it, because you will need it when you're an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And credit cards are the most expensive way to fund your business. So if you have this as on the side for when things come up or things get tight, because once you have it, they can't take it away. But when you're an entrepreneur and you don't have the income coming in and you apply for it, you're not going to get it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would tell them. This is a very practical thing. Mm-hmm. I think the next thing I would tell them is to just really take some time getting clear on what do they want to do. And forget this ideal client thing and all that there's time for that. Mm-hmm. But get really clear on the life you want. Like, what do you want from your life? Do you want to travel? Do you want to have time for meaningful relationships? Do you want to pursue passions? Like for me, it's horsemanship. Mm-hmm. Is it sports? Like, what is it that you want to do? Like, what's your big driving why? And get really connected to that, because that's what's going to pull you forward through the rough moments. Because when people leave corporate, they're leaving for a reason. Mm-hmm. And freedom does not mean you have to cut back or scale back your lifestyle or your money. It's about how you do it. Mm-hmm. So you want to get really clear on what those things are so that you can actually build your business around it. That would be somebody new. Mm-hmm. Somebody coming in to me.
They can design their business around that.
Yes. After. Yes. Like for instance, for me, like, today doesn't count, but most days it's like 3:00 and it's done. And I'm off to my horse. Mm-hmm. Right. And I build and flow around that. And it's just my team knows it. So you need to be clear on what it is so that you actually do prioritize that. You don't trade one rat race for another. Mm-hmm. So that's the practical and the purposeful, the two sides. Somebody who's been in business a long time, I think the most important thing is to really just strip it all back and get really clear again. I mean, what do you want to do? Like, what brought you to your business? why are you at? Why are you plateaued? Like, what don't you love doing anymore? Is there something you'd rather be doing? We have to get to that, because plateaus are usually internal, right? And yes, there's the practical side of things where maybe there isn't a market for the product, or you're in the wrong markets. However, there's a reason you don't have the right product anymore, and there's a reason you're in the wrong markets, and there's a reason you have the wrong clients. It starts inside. So we have to really look at what's actually gone on. Have you fallen out of love with your business? Have you had some personal things come up in your life that have been distracting you, and that you still love your business, yet you've been split in your focus? We need to look at that first, and then we can put the implementation in place, because there's always a reason behind why things happen. I mean, there's practical things that could happen. However, there's always an underlying piece to get there.
Excellent advice. Excellent. So now you have a TV show.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
All right, it's called Living Forward TV. Of course, it's Living Forward.
Yes.
And that's my little passion project, and it's every week. Like, we come to you with a topic. It's either mindset or practical action, and so it's just to inspire people every week on things that come up, right? Because in business, there's always just little things we can do, or maybe do a little differently, or just have a different perspective. And so I really try to help people out, and also give them, a download that they can grab to help them implement what we have put in there. Like the one that's coming out this week, or that just came out this weekend, was one like, how do you deal with summer house guests when you're an entrepreneur? Right? You guys get that one, right? Because when your friends and family think you don't really need to work.
Yeah.
So those are
yes. They think you're on vacation all the time. They think they can call anytime they want.
Exactly. So we deal with real topics like that, and we also deal with mindset stuff. So we've got some coming up on how to turn coffee dates into productive business meetings, or what to do when the client wants a refund. It's just things to help entrepreneurs go through. They're all between 3 to 10 minutes. They're not very long.
And this is all on YouTube?
It's all on YouTube. It's on my channel's Nafissa Shireen on YouTube, and you can also go to Living Forward TV, and that'll take you directly to the blog.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So do you have any other projects that are coming up?
Projects?
Or anything new you're working on, or anything that...
Well, I mean, I'm not sure when this will be airing, but it might be airing around the time we're letting our speaking thing go live again. However, for your listeners, I have a backdoor way into.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. But we are working on developing some very deep retreats over the next year, in 2018. I want to really focus on the mindset and moving through blocks. So it'll be mindset mastery. We'll be doing them, between 6 to 10 people max per event. So they're not going to be big events. They'll be.
Do we know where this is going to take place?
Have not figured
that
out yet.
Okay,
My team's out looking at beautiful suites and stuff right now, and so we're just trying to get that all figured out. That's would be our 2018 thing on the go.
Awesome. So if people want to come find what you do and all you're up to, they can find you. Where's the best place to find you?
NafissaShireen.com. That's
perfect.
Everything's there. It's all linked there. You can go there and find it.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to share with us?
Well, if you'd like to join my Facebook group,
yeah,
I have a free mastermind. It's called Living Forward Business and Lifestyles, and we're up to almost 500 members now.
Wow!
And so we're gonna get people. It's for you to grow your business and get inspiration every day. So
excellent. Well, thank you for that.
Those are the things. So thank you for allowing me to share that. I appreciate that. I didn't want to just like splatter that all over everybody.
No,
this is your show.
No, of course.
But I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a guest in the series, and for sharing your pearls of wisdom.
I'm excited for your podcast. This is really awesome.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to share it with my entire community as well.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Just I am just touched that one thing that impressed me because I had just barely met you, and you right away asked me to be your guest, and I was so grateful for that. So I just want you to know that.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if I ever thanked you enough for that, because I thought, wow, like
I just loved your vibe. I loved your energy. Yeah, I'd stalked you out online.
Oh, you stalked me.
I was like, I want her on my podcast or Tell Us Summit.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, and I believe it was a question you asked me. But what is your morning ritual? My morning ritual? Yeah. Well, I get up between 5:30 and 6. If I'm not up by 6, my pug, she comes and wakes me up. Like she's like an alarm clock. I get up and I either journal or read or listen to a podcast, just something to get my mind in gear. And then I either go to the gym or go down to my bike in the basement and just get the day started that way, so that I
have my mind clear. I think it can be too easy to be overwhelmed by all the stuff that comes at you electronically and social media. So I like to start my day without email, without Facebook, without
No electronics.
nothing. Well, I will sometimes have a podcast, so I'll listen to that. And it took a while to have the self-control not to press anything else. But what I do is I will select the podcast at night now that I want to listen to in the daytime. I have it plugged in, then I can just put it on and press play.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So now you're going to be adding this one to your list.
Absolutely.
So I have one listener. First listener. Oh wow. Well, thank you so much for
thank you for inviting me.
for
I really
being here.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Francesca.
Bye everyone.
Bye.